Hello everyone, and welcome back to Conspiraseed. So you may have noticed that this is a different iceberg than 2 weeks ago, and that is correct. This is not the disturbing Reddit post iceberg because within tier 2 I read like the first 4 entries and I started writing the script for it and I was like, I'm gonna vomit. They were so gross, they were so disgusting that I had to take a minute and I went downstairs to get some water and I told my roommate about it and he was like, don't ever tell me about that again. Instead, we're on to the Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg, which I found on Reddit and you can find in the link in the description. If you really want me to go back to the disturbing Reddit posts iceberg, I can as well, but it seriously is so gross. And it's just tier 2. It was so gross. A lot of you commented on tier 1 how gross it was, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you really want me to continue on the disturbing Reddit post iceberg, I can, and I will if you really want me to, but I personally do not really want to anymore, so we're moving on. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today. Let's get into tier 1. So I actually made a whole video just on this, so we're going to start with this one. If you want to learn more about it in depth, you can go ahead and click here, and this will take you to my video. But I will sum it up, just in case you don't have time to watch it, or you just don't want to watch it. Speaking of, if you actually want me to do like a deeper dive onto any of these subjects, let me know, and I'll go ahead and I'll add it to my list. The SETAGAYA family murders actually happened to the Miyawaza family who lived in the SETAGAYA district of Tokyo, Japan. The killer likely entered through the second-story bathroom window, murdered the family, then spent time in the family's house, using their computer as it was logged on at 1 in the morning. Despite the killer leaving behind thousands of pieces of evidence, I think it's like 27,000 pieces of evidence, including fingerprints, hair strands, his scarf, the suspect has never been found, a suspect has never been named, and no one's ever been arrested. The Zodiac Killer, famously known as Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, is actually the pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer. The Zodiac Killer operated in Northern California in the late 1960s. The killer has been described as the most famous unsolved murder case in American history. Multiple amateur detectives attempted to solve it, and it became a fixture in pop culture. He killed 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December of 1968 and October of 1969, and mostly killed in rural or urban or suburban areas, which is pretty much all the areas in the San Francisco Bay Area. So he actually targeted 3 young couples and then 1 lone male cab driver. And if you're doing the math, that's 7 people, not 5. But 2 of his victims actually survived, and they were the ones that gave their accounts that made this composite sketch. The Zodiac Killer claims to have murdered 37 victims and has been linked to several other cold cases, but only the 5 dead and 2 injured are the only ones to be confirmed. He coined his name in a series of letters and cards that he sent to regional newspapers in which he threatened killing sprees and bombings if they weren't printed. The letters included ciphers in which the killer claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Of the 4 ciphers that he mailed in, only 2 have been solved, and until 2020, only 1 of them had been solved. While many theories in regards to the identity of the killer have been suggested, the only suspect authorities have ever publicly named was Arthur Leigh Allen, a former elementary school teacher and convicted sex offender who died in 1992. The Zodiac Killer ceased communications around 1974, but the case is still open and active to this day. The Axeman of New Orleans is an unidentified serial killer who was active in New Orleans and surrounding communities in May 1918 to October of 1919. As the name suggests, his victims were usually attacked with an axe, which often belonged to the victims themselves. He mostly targeted Italian immigrants or Italian Americans, leaving the possibility that the killings were racially motivated. However, since he was never caught, this can't exactly be proven, and as an Italian myself, I just gotta say, what the heck, man? You don't like it when I cook it a pizza? In most cases, the intruder would break into the house, then attack one or more of the residents with either an axe or a straight razor. The straight razor man of New Orleans. The crimes weren't robberies gone wrong, as nothing was ever removed from the victim's house. Many media outlets sensationalized the racial aspects of the crimes, even suggesting that the mafia was involved, despite a lack of evidence. The Axeman was never caught or identified, and his crime spree stopped just as quickly and mysteriously as it had started. On March 13, 1919, a letter purporting to be from the Axeman was published in the newspapers, saying that he would kill again at 15 minutes past midnight on the night of March 19th, but would spare the occupants of any place where a jazz band was playing. That night, all of New Orleans dance halls were filled to capacity while jazz played, and bands played jazz at parties at hundreds of houses around the town, and there were no murders that night. Do you want to hear a real conspiracy? Roughly 50% of all my viewers are not subscribed. That's 50% of people, that's half of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button today. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders was a series of 4 unsolved murders and related violent crimes committed around the Texarkana region of Arkansas and Texas in the late winter and spring of 1946. They were attributed to an alleged unidentified serial killer known as the Phantom of Texarkana, or alternatively the Phantom Killer, or even Phantom Slayer. See, we need to stop giving serial killers such cool names. The Phantom Slayer? That sounds cool as heck. Like, we'd probably have less killers if we stopped giving them cool names. The Night Stalker, the Phantom Slayer, Ted Bundy. Name him Small-Brained Doo-Doo Head Killer. That'll stop future killers. The attacks occurred between February 22nd and May 3rd, targeting couples or males and female pairs. The first 3 attacks were at Lover's Lane or on quiet stretches of road on the Texas side, and the 4th attack occurred at an isolated farmhouse in Arkansas. The news reports caused a state of panic in Texarkana. Residents armed themselves and at dusk locked themselves indoors while police patrolled the streets and neighborhoods. Stores sold out of guns, ammo, locks, and other protective equipment. Some vigilantes actually attempted to bait and ambush the killer. Investigations were conducted at the city, county, state, and federal levels, and in the course of the investigation, there have been shifting opinions by officials over whether the 1st and 4th attacks were even committed by the same person. The prime suspect of this case was Ul Swinney, a career petty criminal who was linked to the murders primarily by statements from his wife and additional circumstantial evidence. However, after his wife refused to testify against him, prosecutors decided against pursuing murder charges. He was convicted on other charges and sentenced to jail as a forger and car thief. Jack the Ripper is an unidentified serial killer who was active around the Whitechapel district of London in autumn of 1888. Attacks attributed to the Ripper typically involved women working as prostitutes who lived and worked in the slums of the East End of London. Their throats were cut prior to mutilations of their stomach and abdomen area. The removal of internal organs from at least 3 of the victims led to speculation that their killer had some sort of surgical or human anatomical knowledge. Rumors that the murders were connected intensified and basically started in September and October of 1888, and numerous letters were received by media outlets and Scotland Yard from individuals purporting to be the murderer. The name originated from the Dear Boss letter written by an individual claiming to be the murderer, which was published in the press. The letter is widely believed to have been a hoax and may have been written by journalists, in fact, to heighten interest in the story and increase their newspaper circulation. Whoa, journalists making up stuff? Unheard of. There's another letter called the From Hell letter, which was received by George Lusk of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee and came with half of a preserved human kidney purportedly taken from one of the victims. The public started to believe in the existence of a single serial killer known as Jack the Ripper, mainly because of both the extraordinarily brutal nature of the murders and the media coverage of the crimes. Extensive newspaper coverage bestowed widespread and enduring notoriety internationally about the Ripper worldwide. A police investigation into the series of murders committed was unable to connect all of the killings. 5 victims, however, known as the Canonical Five, are often considered the most likely to be linked together. The murders were never solved, and the legends surrounding the crimes became a combination of historical research, folklore, and conspiracy pseudo-history. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre was a murder of 7 members and associates of Chicago's North Side gang that occurred on St. Valentine's Day in 1929. At first, my understanding of this was that it was done by Al Capone and his gang, so I kind of wondered why it was on here, but doing further research, that's not true. The men were gathered at a Lincoln Park, Chicago garage on the morning of February 14, 1929. They were lined up against a wall and shot by 4 unknown assailants, 2 of which were dressed as police officers. The murders were a result from the competition of control of organized crime in the city during Prohibition between the largely Irish Northsiders and the largely Italian Chicago outfit rivals led by Al Capone. The perpetrators have never been identified. However, former gang members of the Egan's Rats gang worked for Capone and are suspected to be involved. Others have said that members of the Chicago Police Department themselves, who allegedly wanted revenge for the killing of one of the police officers' sons, were the ones who did it. The VILLISCA axe murders occurred on the night of June 9th, 1912, in the small town of VILLISCA, Iowa. In the darkness, an unknown person infiltrated the home of the Moore family, where Josiah and Sarah Moore, along with their 4 children and 2 of their children's friends, slept. The killer then took an axe to each of the residents of the house. The aftermath of the tragedy left the community in shock and in disbelief, forever scarred by the senseless brutality that had unfolded. To this day, the VILLISCA axe murders remain an unsolved mystery. The investigation that followed the gruesome crime revealed a series of perplexing clues and inconsistencies, further deepening the questions. Authorities found the murder weapon, the bloody axe, at the scene along with the victims' bodies. Despite extensive efforts, the identity of the murderer has remained shrouded in mystery, frustrating investigators and perpetuating a sense of unease within the town. Over the years, numerous theories and suspects have emerged, ranging from local residents to transient drifters passing through the area. Some believe that the crime was actually a result of personal grudges, while others speculate it was just a random act of pure violence. The Morse family home, where this actually happened, it still stands today, and visitors go there on ghost hunts. Now, the smiley face murder theory is actually kind of a highly debated hypothesis that suggests a connection between a series of drowning deaths of young men across several states in the United States. The theory is that these deaths, often ruled as accidental, may actually be the work of a group of serial killers. The name of this theory is derived from the alleged discovery of smiley face graffiti near some of the crime scenes. Advocates of the theory argue that there are striking similarities in the circumstances surrounding these cases, such as the victims being college-aged males, the presence of smiley face graffiti, and the bodies being found in bodies of water. They believe that these shared elements indicate a sinister pattern and deliberate effort to stage the scenes as accidental drownings. However, critics of the smiley face murder theory, including myself, say that there's a lack of concrete evidence linking these deaths and that the similarities are purely coincidental. These all take place in college towns near bodies of water. So lots of bars, nightlife in college towns, drunk, walking home, falls into the water. There also just happens to be graffiti because it's a college town, and it's one of the easiest things to graffiti, a little smiley face. I don't think they're connected at all, but that's what the theory states. Now, despite the ongoing debate and extensive media coverage, including me right now, law enforcement agencies have dismissed the theory almost completely, saying that there is insufficient evidence to support its claims, which I 100% agree with. Alright, that's tier 1. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today. Let me know any ideas that you have for videos down in the comments below, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.